I don't have any proof of my theories.
What's your theory?
Because sometimes we get thousands of people like this, and we'll take them to the polling booth, and we won't win the caucus. So, you know, a lot of our supporters are very suspicious about it. But the straw votes have been very confusing. I mean, you've probably read in the paper about what happened up in Maine. I mean, there's just a lot of confusion. They said, well, let's have a recount. They said, well, we can't have a recount. They just write these numbers down on pieces of paper and we throw them away afterwards. So it's that kind of stuff that makes you suspicious because, quite frankly, I don't think the other candidates get the crowd like this. And we get them constantly, you know, thousands of people coming out. And, I mean, you would get the perception that we would be getting a lot more votes. But we're going to get to delegates, and the delegate hunt is on, and that is a lot more difficult to, you know, get careless with the numbers because each individual knows what their responsibility is, and they work through the caucus system, and so far we're getting good news on that.
Dr. Paul, what was your reaction to the outcome in Kansas today? The caucus outcome. Senator Santorum winning the caucus.
Nobody even gave me the numbers. I didn't know that. I was wondering why we did. That reminds me of a picture I just looked at, and I had 4,000 people, and he had 150. So who knows?
Well, when you say suspicion, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
No, I can't because I don't know anything. It's just sort of an instinct and hearsay stories, verbal stories that you hear, and the kind of things that we heard about up in Maine.
But you do expect the thousands who are coming out to support you, you do expect them to go out and talk to vote for you?
Sure, we do.
So
I mean, they don't come here. Why is this enthusiasm if they're not going to vote?
Because they throw out half of the votes, you know. And
oh, yeah. We're following that too. We're the ones that call them on it.
Well, they said, well, they just wrote them on papers. They can't recount them, and they just threw them out.
Yeah. Well, with electronic voting, come on.
We'll go forward. Thank you.
Okay, we got to vacate this area now.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're talking about your CNI here. What's going to take for that to have a broader impact than you've been having in the primaries and caucuses so far?
Probably a fairer shake in the national media. I mean, we're going to have the impact. It goes much faster if you get recorded. You know, we can have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people show up, and there's no recognition. And we do believe that even on some of these votes, sometimes some shenanigans go on. So no, it slows us up. But we say so often, I didn't say it today, that you know, armies and politicians and governments can't stop an idea who's sounded kind of Victor Hugo. And I think that is true. I think this idea, time has come, and they will not stop us.
Is there vote fraud taking place? And at first people were kind of hesitant to raise the topic for fear of being conspiracy theorists, but I've got to say, even for myself, it's beginning to look almost obvious that vote fraud is taking place. Is this an illusion? Are we just losing this fairly, or is there something unfair going on here?
Of course there's voter fraud, but you can't do anything about it unless you have facts, unless you can prove it. And that's just human nature. People in positions of power, when there isn't full accountability, you know, you have two people count the church offering. It's not because everybody in church is a thief. It's just because it's good to have good systems in place. And there are sometimes at the precinct level and at the county level, at the state level there, of course. We just had an incident in Iowa where the actual numbers were known and they weren't published. And day after day, they were kept secret and finally published just on this cycle. We had the situation in Maine where entire counties were not counted for fear that they were going to be too many votes in there for Ron Paul. Right. So there are some that are documented. And I would say to our people, quit complaining about it, go to work, get us some evidence and some details, you know, bring your cell phone and tape record and photograph. Let's keep this process honest and do our best. But it's still an exciting process. Who would have dreamed that Dr. Paul would have done as well as he has, as effective as he is? He's going to go to this convention. He's going to go with a large delegation, and he's going to be a voice that is heard, not just in the United States, but worldwide.
But more recently, and I'm thinking of Super Tuesday, it doesn't appear to be the case that you've actually drawn those people in. According to a Tufts study that was released this week, the Circle study, in 5 Super Tuesday states, you attracted no more of the youth vote than Rick Santorum. What is happening to your base? I know your advisors have been out and publicly saying that, you know, the outpour that you see in the rallies, the support that you see among the youth vote is not translating at the polls.
Well, you have to read all the stories about how they count the votes, too, to be fair, because there's a lot of things going on. We can put 4,000 people in a precinct and come up with 2,000 votes, and we actually know where our votes are. So we have a lot of things to contend with, not only the philosophy and the challenge to the status quo, but we also have to challenge the system that can't bear the thought that we would get a lot of credit for what we're doing.